Just a second. Here. All right, we are live. Incredible. There you are. Okay, dear students. So as I was mentioning, today we're going to finalize with our excursus on the first class of the speaking section. That has been our topic for the entire week, and I think that your progress is certainly admirable, how much you have progressed and improved during all these days. So let us continue with that, and let us try to improve even further, okay? So let me share my screen with you one more time. And we're going to follow actually the same method that we followed yesterday, and I think that has been quite successful and efficient. So let us get into that, and let us continue with more questions so you can respond one by one, having all of you the same 15 seconds to prepare your responses, okay? So let's see what you can do. All right. Here we are. Okay, somebody else is joining us. Fantastic. Okay, let's start with this question. I think it's a very interesting one. For those of you who are joining us, we are practicing the first task of the speaking section. All right. So let us get into that. I'm going to send to the chat box the first topic for today's practice. Okay. As I told you, for those of you who are joining, we are practicing or about to start our practice for the speaking section. So please look at your chat box. You have received right now the topic for the first exercise. And the topic is the following. Investing in a house is much better than investing in the stock market. By the way, the stock market is this what people in Wall Street do, like the movie, right? The Wolf of Wall Street, or The Wolf of Wall Street. Quite interesting title, right? The Wolf of Wall Street. But yeah, as I say, it's basically investments and companies, stuff like that. That is the stock market. So investing in a house is much better than investing in the stock market. In your opinion, is this a good idea? Let's see what you think. All right, so please, dear students, let us start preparing our responses now. There you are. Fantastic. So please let us see who's going to start with this first round. Okay, I can see Jorge here. So please, dear Jorge, you're going to start with the responses round. So please, dear Jorge, enable your microphone and please start responding now.
In my personal opinion, it's a good idea to invest in a house instead of investing in the stock market for the following reasons. Firstly, a house can obviously serve as a house where you can live and it cannot change. You cannot lose that house and you cannot, the house is going to remain there. For example, my parents decided to invest in the house that we are currently living in and we haven't lost it and it's continued here. Secondly, is less volatile than the stock market. In the stock market, you can invest and yeah, you can gain a lot of money, but also you can lose a lot. I know a cousin that recently decided to invest in the stock market and yeah, he won a lot of money, but he also lost all of it recently. And that'll be it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Jorge. Awesome. Alondra, please could you continue with the round of responses? So please, dear Alondra, start responding to the question now. Okay, I guess Alondra has some technical problems. Okay, she's gonna respond later. Anai, please, dear Anai, could you continue with the round? Start responding to the question now.
In my opinion, investing in a house is much better than investing in stock market for the following reason. First of all, the feeling that having our own home. Second, about being safety at your place and don't lose money on rent. Like my parents, they earn a few money and invested in a house because they have a priority and they have already a family. So I guess that the first feeling to be safe was having their own house and then think about investing in the stock market, thinking about furniture, or thinking about having a car.
All right. Thank you very much, dear Name. Very good. Miguel, you're going to continue, please. So please, dear Miguel, start responding to the question now.
I believe that it will depend in how skilled you are in a stocking market or in buying a house. If you are skilled in a stocking market, for instance, you can achieve higher amount of money. But buying a house is a safer way to save money. Uh, Exemplifying, if you buy a house, it will rise uh, his its price in a few years. But if you invest in a stock market, you can lose your money the next day.
There you are. Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Miguel. Okay, fantastic. Fabiana, please, dear Fabiana, you're going to follow up. So please start responding to the question now.
Okay, in my opinion, I think it's better to invest in a house, as this can help you in the future. For example, my sister invested in an apartment recently, which helped her a lot. And having a secure home is very important. For example, my parents preferred to invest in a house, and they didn't have to worry about in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Very good. All right. So please, dear Alondra, are you able to respond to this question? Or maybe you would like to start from the next one? Are you there, dear Alondra? Can you listen to me? Okay, she has some troubles, I guess. Fantastic. So as I was mentioning, I think this is a very, very good round of responses, I have to admit. Let me give you some feedback. So for example, with Jorge, well, the second argument for me was tremendously appealing. Volatile, right? That word, how it sounds, even how it sounds collaborates to the vocabulary, right? Because to the vocabulary, when you are thinking about vocabulary and the particular category that the reviewer has for evaluating vocabulary, of course, that volatile would be a word that is considered to be advanced. So I would tremendously recommend you to continue using this type of words. What else? For example, with very good arguments, concise, clear, and fantastic illustrations as well, with your parents, with your own person, very good. And I as well, I love the arguments you gave. You said, right, buying a house is preferable because it allows you to be comfortable and also it allows you to be safer. Fantastic. And also you gave tremendous illustrations, the one with your parents, the one with your own person, incredible, very good response. Miguel as well offered a fantastic response. He talked about, for example, the skilled and how important it is to be skilled in the stock market if you're going to, of course, invest on that particular business and that particular activity. Nonetheless, he went for the second option and he defended that it is better to actually buy a house. So yes, I mean, that is possible because what he did, maybe some of you were thinking, but isn't he talking about both positions? When I told you when we were discussing this that you shouldn't actually talk about positive things of both positions, but he didn't talk about any, let's say, positive thing about the stock market. What he said or what he did was to make the particular commentary that if you were good at investments in the stock markets, well, maybe you could think about it, but given that not many people is, let's say, very much studied nor skilled in that particular area, he went for the safest option, buying houses, and he started to develop his arguments. Very good. Very, very good. Here we go. And Fabiana as well, she gave two particular examples with her sister buying a new apartment recently as a very good investment, very good illustration, dear Fabiana. And also she talked about her parents, how they bought a house and they have been very comfortable and secure since that time. Fantastic. I think that all of you are getting the idea that it is one argument and a personal and a specific illustration, another argument in a personal and a specific illustration. So I'm very, very happy that all of you are getting that particular structure and order. So please let us continue repeating it. Okay, let's go. One more. All right. This is a very interesting topic, so I want to see what you think about it. And then paste it. Children and teenagers should be limited to only 2 hours of screen time daily from devices such as smartphones, iPads, and gaming systems like Xbox. Do you think that this is a good idea? Give reasons and details, all right? So let's see what you think about this topic. Try to use very specific illustrations one more time, okay? Don't forget that. All right. So please, all of you dear students, start responding to, well, not responding, designing, developing your responses now. There you are. Okay. Now, who's going to start this one? Anai, please, dear Anai, you're going to start with this round. So please, dear Anai, start responding to the question now.
I am 100% agree with the statement that children and teenagers should be limited to only 2 hours on screen time because of the following reasons. First of all, it's really bad for our eyes' health. And second, we can invest our time in another productive activities. Like me, when I was a children, I used to use my time playing piano and having activities like play basketball and football. And I think those activities allows me to have being more organized and have a normal childhood, and I have an advantage beside my other classmates.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Renai. Very good. Miguel, please, you're going to be the second one. Start responding to the question now.
In a personal opinion, I think that limiting to only 2 hours of screen to teenagers and children is a good idea, but it's kind of impossible. Why? Because actually nowadays, technology is everything. We used to see children handling iPhones, iPads, telephones, and often that's because technology improved the learning and the access to classes, and I think that it's a good thing to have technology in house.
Okay. Thank you very much, dear Miguel. There you are. Fabiana, you're going to continue, okay? So please, dear Fabiana, start responding to the question now.
Okay. Yes, I think it's a good idea, especially for children, because nowadays they are glued to their phones all day long. For example, when I go out to eat with my mom, I see 4-year-old children glued to the phone and not sharing with their families. I also think it limits to socialize and it damages their eyesight for a very early age. For example, my cousin had to start wearing glasses for this reason.
There you are. Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Fabiana. I think that Camila has just gotten into. Dear Camila, how are you? Did you have time to read the question and to prepare a response, or would you like to start from the next round?
Yes, no, the other question I couldn't make my answer because my Wi-Fi is not working. So I don't know if you're hearing me. I hope.
Yes, I am. Okay.
But
Fantastic.
this question, I've been able to read this question.
Okay, so would you like to respond this one?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go. So please start responding now.
Okay. I do think that children should be limited to the screen of technologies, but not teenagers. I believe this because children are moldable in the early years. They learn everything they hear and see. However, teenagers already have a marked criterion. For example, my 3-year-old cousin was not prohibited from using a tablet, and I noticed that his way of communicating compared to my other cousins who were controlled was a lot different. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Camila. There you are. Mhm. Okay. And finally, Jorge. Please, your Jorge, start responding to the question now.
In my personal opinion, it's a good idea to limit the screen time daily for children and teenagers for the following reasons. Firstly, it can cause long use of these devices can hurt the eye, it can cause long-term disease. For example, my brother used to play video games for hours and hours. Now, later on that he's an adult, he recently got diagnosed with a lot of eye disease or long-term disease by the ophthalmologist. On the other hand, it can also teach discipline in order to be able to differentiate from having fun and from doing things like study. For example, my friend told me that having that distinction of having fun and study time has helped him a lot in his professional life. That'll be it.
There you are. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Jorge. Okay. So let's start with our feedback, okay, for all of you. So let me share with you what I wrote. So, for example, starting with Anaï, I think that Anaï presented a very good illustration here as well, and arguments. She talked about, for example, eyes health and how, well, of course, this is affected by watching or, let's say, being exposed into, well, in an excessive manner to this type of devices like computers and stuff like that. Very good. She also offered, okay, so for example, here I wanted to make a distinction. So here Anaï, for example, presented her arguments somehow united because she said, right, this is a bad idea because it could cause eyes health problems, and you could actually instead decide to practice useful activities in order to help your professional future, etc., etc. So what? Well, of course, maybe this is this also works, I think. Nonetheless, of course, the way that we have practiced the structure is one argument, and then you offer one illustration for that argument, right? So the way that Anaï is doing it here is that she presents her two arguments at the beginning, and then she offers a big illustration that basically illustrates both ideas. Now, this is very interesting because this was exactly the proposition that I received from one of my students last day. And he told me, would it be possible to offer the two arguments at the beginning and then to offer just one illustration, let's say one big illustration that exemplifies both arguments? And I told him, well, it seems to be a very interesting idea, quite innovative. Now, I don't recommend it to use it. Why? Because I have never tested it on the exam. I'm not sure how well the reviewers receive it. The structure that I show you is the one that I have used twice, and I have seen it works. Nonetheless, as I say, dear and if you want to go up and be the first one innovating in this type of structure, tell me how you how well it goes for you. If it goes well, fantastic. I would like to use it because it's very interesting. It's the two arguments and then just one big illustration that exemplifies both arguments. So if you want to use it, and because I have seen that you're using it actually in your two responses, if you use it and if you find out that the reviewers also like it, tell me, okay? Because it's very interesting. But very good. Anyways, fantastic arguments. Okay. Let's go with Miguel. So, well, Miguel, I think that you also offer a very interesting opinion. So, for example, here, I like how you, let's say, get out of the average response, and you, let's say, bring out the topic into a new light. Now, I'm not sure maybe if this is, let's say, the safest option, because remember that as your professor, what I have to teach you is the safest manner to get a very good qualification in this exam, right? So, of course, because what you're doing in this case is something like creating a third response to the question, because the two possibilities were, do you agree that the time screen for children should be limited, or do you disagree with it? What do you think? Do you agree or do you disagree? Now you basically created a third option because you said, although I agree, I think it is impossible to do it. So it's basically a third role that you are creating. Now, although this response to me, as well as in the case of Anais, seems to be very much interesting and compelling, and I like it, I'm not sure if it is safe, because as I say, I've never tested this one before in an exam that is real with real reviewers, and I've never listened. I mean, in this case, I do know of people who have tried this particular type, and they have not received positive reviews because, as I say, I guess there is a reason why ECS gives you two different responses, and you have to choose from one of them. You go for the agreeing or the disagreeing option, but you create a third option or a third response. Apparently, they don't like it. So I would recommend you to stay in the normal response and to choose one of these positions and to defend one of those positions in the common manner. That is to say, to go and agree with one or to disagree with the other, instead of creating your own response. That, although, as I say, I love it, I'm not sure if it is a safe response. So my recommendation as your teacher would be to be in the safest manner possible and to follow the path that they are tracing for you. But anyways, as I say, is a very good response to Miguel. Okay. What about Fabiana?
Okay.
Right. Thank you very much, dear Miguel. Fantastic. What about Fabiana? For example, in this case, she presented, right, two arguments. First of all, they children, when they are not restricted, they don't share with families. Very good. Ice damage as well, and she gave fantastic arguments. So very good, dear Fabiana. Camila, for example, here gave a very interesting argument. Also, she talks about how I said that children actually have a good criterion for knowing what type of or what limit they should put to themselves in order to use this type of digital devices. So it's a quite innovative argument, and I also like the way that she illustrated it by offering the example of her cousin, I think it was, her one of her relatives, that she has described as different in his behavior when compared to other people, right? So interesting, very interesting response. Although of course it will be it is lacking to present the two arguments, right, and the two illustrations, because in this case you just gave one argument and one illustration. But anyways, as I say, try to push yourself a little bit to continue coming up with two arguments and giving two different illustrations for those two arguments. Okay, but anyways, good response. And Jorge as well, fantastic. Again, concise arguments, concise responses, advanced words. I think it's fantastic. Very good response to you, Jorge. There you are. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, this is very interesting. Let me see what you think about this one. It says, all young men and young women should be required to complete 2 years of military service for their countries. In your opinion, is this a good idea? I repeat, all young men and young women should be required to complete 2 years of military service for their countries. Is this a good idea? What do you think? All right, let me check out this. Okay, so dear students, please start developing your responses now. Okay, there you are. So in this case, Camila, please, dear Camila, you're going to start, right? So please, dear Camila, start responding to this question now.
Okay, I do think that it's a good idea because first of all, I think that being on the military on military service, it can improve your constancy and for example, I have my brother, which I know what was that nerviosa.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you very much for Camila. Don't worry, it happens. right? Would you like to respond one more time, maybe?
Um, yeah, I can try. I'm a little nervous now, but I can try.
Okay, let's go one more time. So please start responding now.
Okay. Yes, I think that being on the military service can help to improve the discipline of a person, and also you're contributing to the country you live in. Um, for example, my brother, he was on a military service. At first, he didn't want to, but at the end of the year, he was able to have a marked discipline, and also he had more love for his country. So
Fantastic. Very good. Thank you very much, Camila. There you are. Okay, so Fabiana, please could you continue with the responses? Start responding to this question now.
Well, I think it's a personal decision, not something that you should be forced to do, the military service. For example, my dad decided to do it because he wanted to do it, not because he was forced. But my uncle decided to not do it. And also, well, I think in other point can help to you. Well, I don't know. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. No, don't worry, don't worry. Thank you very much, dear Fabiana. Happens. All right. Miguel, please could you continue with this round? Start responding, dear Miguel, now.
In a personal opinion, I think that mandatory 2 years service in the military is not a good idea. Well, it will depend in what country you are. If you are in a country that usually is in a conflict with other countries, yes, so it has to be mandatory. For instance, Israel is mandatory to have a 2 year service in the military for women and men. But in a personal opinion, I think it's a very good idea to serve your country in order to learn some new things.
All right. Thank you very much, dear Miguel. There you are. Okay, so let's continue with Anai. Okay, so please, dear Anai, let's start responding to this question now.
I don't agree with the statement that all young men and young women should be required to complete 2 years of military service for the following reasons. First of all, that kind of activities are not necessary nowadays. And second, people have different interests that can also help the country in somehow. Like my aunt, he did this, but at the end of the time, he found his way working as an electrician, something very different as a military service. And finally, I would say the military service, it could be just an option, but not a requirement for the people, and not a requirement for say that just that people serve the country.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Anai. Fantastic. And let's finalize with Jorge. Okay, so please, dear Jorge, start responding to the question now.
In my personal opinion, young men and women should not be required to complete military service of 2 years for the following reasons. Firstly, they could be considered a waste of time for some people. For example, my friend was recently forced to enter the military service, and he's complaining all the time to me, saying that he could be doing other productive things that could help him for his career, for example. On the other hand, not every person in the country has this nationalistic feeling of defending the country or standing what the country stands for. For example, my cousin really just doesn't like our country. So if he would be forced to enter a military service, he would be extremely angry. He wouldn't be doing it efficiently. That'll be it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jorge. There you are. Okay. So let us start with Jorge then, our feedback. So I think that the response of Jorge was certainly fantastic. Talked about, first of all, how some people simply, think that the military service is a waste of time. Tremendously true. And she mentioned, or excuse me, he mentioned, for example, one of his friends that has been forced to enter this service and is now complaining that that he could do positive things for his own life instead of being there imprisoned, let's say, in the military base. Fantastic. And he also mentioned, right, a second argument, some people believe that, some people simply do not have this patriotism, and they do not like their country. So of course they are not happy to serve the country in this military basis. So they simply do not like it. And he mentioned one of his cousins, excuse me, that doesn't like her country and wouldn't like to participate in this type of activities that of course are for people who love his or her country, right? So very good. That is the idea. Opinion, one argument, personal and very detailed explanation or illustration, excuse me. Second argument, very concise, very personal, and a specific illustration for that argument. Fantastic. Let's continue with, for example, Camila. Camila talked about constancy, order, organization that her brother, of course, learned by getting into the military service. Fantastic, right? Because she gave that argument. And also she mentioned an illustration of her own life with her brother. So I think it was very compelling. Now, of course, the only detail would be to include a second argument and a second illustration. As I say, try to force yourself, your students, to include these two arguments and two illustrations, because as I say, a law, of course, is not like let's say a great or the greatest of all scenes to include just one argument and one illustration in the response. Certainly, if you want to get a high score, I recommend you to have this constancy and this, let's say, this length of response presenting two different arguments, because that certainly is more compelling. It's more strong, more powerful to give two arguments, right? Because when you are debating, for example, something that it is very common in the debate theory or the debate discussion in academic settings is that when you just present one argument, it's super easy to tear it down. But nonetheless, when you present 2-3 arguments, it's super difficult to destroy the case you are making for a particular premise. So in this case, I'm just asking you to bring up with two particular arguments. And if you construct a case with two arguments, of course that your response is going to be more consistent, right? With two illustrations instead of one. So as I say, try to do this, force yourself to do it. But anyways, it's a very good response here, Camila. The same for Miguel. I think that the response was very good as well. He talked about, right, a very interesting topic as well, that for countries that for countries that are experiencing warfare, even in this time, it should be mandatory because, they need such a help and service from their citizens in order to continue existing as a free society. Very good argument. He also talked about, for example, Israel. In this case, I think the illustration was very compelling because although it wasn't, let's say, personal, of course, right, because he's not Israeli, nonetheless, the argument or the illustration in this case is very compelling because it's talking about a country that is super, super famous because of this problematic issues with warfare and things of that sort with neighboring nations, right? So I think it's a very compelling illustration because of the reality and currency of the situation. But very good, anyways, there you go. As well, and I talked about her brother and how he experienced some difficult moments through the military service in order to express and convey the argument that she mentioned. Fantastic response. I found it to be super compelling and super a lot dramatic, very powerful. Okay, so very good. And I continue with that. And I actually noticed that you followed the recommendation, right? You presented one argument, one illustration, and then another argument, and then the illustration for the second argument. That is fantastic because, as you can see, it makes it, I don't know, more natural even. But anyways, the other technique you were using before, it is certainly very, very much powerful as well. I would like to see how it goes, but let's say the safest manner is to apply this one. Maybe someday I'm gonna try a new TOEFL exam. And I'm gonna try your technique, the first one you were using, two arguments and one big illustration. I would like to see how it goes. I mean, if the reviewers react to it positively, I would actually like to do it. But in your case, go for the safest option, that is this one. Okay, but very good, Pierre. And Jorge, well, I have already talked about Jorge. I think it was in this case it was Fabiana, right, who had some troubles. But anyways, yeah, Fabiana, it happens. Don't worry, it happens to the best people. So let's continue practicing. Let's see what we have here. Mm, okay, let's see this one. I want to see your opinions. Children who misbehave in elementary schools should be paddled. For those of you who do not know the meaning of paddle, is like apaleados, like golpeados con un palo, right? Paddled. So let's see what you think about it. Children who misbehave in elementary schools should be paddled. Do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea? What do you think? All right. Please, all of you, start preparing your responses now. Great. So please, now who's going to start? I think that Anai, you're going to start, okay, with this round. So please, dear Anai, start responding to this question now.
I don't accept the idea that children who misbehave in elementary school should be paddled because of the following reason. First of all, they can act in that way because they have problems at home, and second, maybe they are calling for attention, and maybe the only way to act in that case will be the professors or the academic counselor have to talk with the student and the family. So find a way they can help. That will happen in my school when I was little, and my friend who has problem in her family.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much, Anai. There you are. Let's continue with Fabiana, please, dear Fabiana. Let's go with the response for this question, starting now.
Okay, I think it's not a good idea to educate children like that. For example, my father told me that they did that in his school, but it left a lot of trauma to him and to the children. Besides, education shouldn't be based on violence, because that way the children will not want to learn or attend school, because we should not create fears, but make the school their second home. For example, my sister had a teacher who shouted a lot, and that made her to not learn and not pass the subject.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Fabiana. There you are. Dear Miguel, please could you follow up with the responses round? Start responding the question now.
I think that children who misbehave in elementary school shouldn't be paddled, because I think that this action could create a contrary effect that we want to achieve with this action. Maybe you can, I don't know, create a trauma that is going to develop furthermore in grow person. That's all.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Miguel. Let's go with Jorge. Please, dear Jorge, start responding to the question now.
In my personal opinion, kids that misbehave should not be paddled for the following reason. Firstly, it causes more violence and it can affect the mental health of the children. For example, my cousin used to be punished severely in school, and later on he got anger management issues because he doesn't know how to handle those emotions. On the other hand, there are more efficient ways that you can correct misbehavior in children. For example, my brother is raising his children in a more pacifist way, or in a more way that teaches them how to handle those emotions and what they did wrong and how to not repeat them instead of violence. That'll be it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Jorge. And finally, our dear Camila. So please, dear Camila, start responding to the question now.
Carlos,
Yes.
my Wi-Fi was failing, so I wasn't able to read the question. So I don't know if you could send it again.
Oh, yes, yes, of course, why not?
Thank you.
Let me send it. Okay, there you are. Okay, so
Okay.
while you prepare your response, I'm gonna give feedback to one of your classmates, okay?
Okay.
Fantastic. So, well, starting then with our feedback to Anaí. Okay, so I think that Anaí in this case came back to her original technique, right? To present the arguments at the beginning and then to offer the single illustration for both of them. Nonetheless, as I say, it's a very interesting technique. If you're gonna use it, tell me how it goes, okay? Because I am very curious. I think that it could be, positive. Nonetheless, well, here you have the other structure if you want to use it as well, okay? But with regards to the response, it was very good. Talking about, suffering and attention that are maybe two factors that somehow lead children to misbehave. And of course, it would be a bad idea to punish them and to hurt them because of those particular problems, right? Very good, dear Nani. Okay, let's see what. Okay, so dear Camila, please start now responding to the question. Now.
Okay. No, I don't think kids should be paddled. On one hand, punishing them in this way cannot only traumatize them, but also can cause the opposite effect of what would come to be discipline. Secondly, I believe that it is the obligation of parents to raise their children with respect so that their children can so that their example can be reflected in the school. For example, my dad in his school, they use this method to discipline the children, but in quotes, but they only made him hate school.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Camila. There you are. All right, so let us continue now with Fabiana. Okay, Fabiana's feedback. So for Fabiana, I have written. Okay, so for Fabiana, I wrote, okay, very interesting. She talks about, for example, trauma that could be caused because of this activity, paddling little children, and she also talked about no violence, right? That is to say that well, it's better to educate children without violence because in doing so, you allow them to actually love learning, right? So very interesting, fantastic response here, Fabiana. Miguel as well here, he talked about the contrary effect that could be actually taking place when you are punishing young children in this manner instead of being more organized or learning, let's say, in a higher or superior manner. They're going to be disencouraged to learn, and they could be actually misbehaving and having some sort of opposition towards studying because of these bad experiences. So very interesting argument, although of course, as I say, it's always better to offer two. Nonetheless, for purposes of practicing, it's very good, dear Miguel, and also the illustration that you offer, fantastic. For Jorge, fantastic, as always, talking about the emotional, let's say, damage that could be happened or that could be caused, excuse me, or could be happening in children's life if they receive this treatment. Talking about examples of his personal life, of his brother, fantastic. And Camila, so for Camila as well, I think that it was a very good response. She also used the argument of trauma as a possible effect or result of this practice of paddling children. And she also discussed, for example, how his father was also educated this manner, and he became actually very much hateful for school, demonstrating that, of course, this actually doesn't have positive results in children. Fantastic, very good. All right, so I think that you are improving very much, dear students. I'm very content about it. Let's continue with one more example. Let's see. Okay. What about this one? It's very personal. I would like to see what you think. It's a large question, by the way. Some believe that taking a road trip for 1,000 or 3,000 kilometers is a great way to tour a new country, whereas others think that it is better to have a vacation destination in mind before traveling to a new country. Which one do you prefer? So basically it's asking, right? There are some people who like to have vacations, let's say improvised vacations. They simply get into the country and they visit whatever comes to their way. Or so some people are actually more thoughtful or more rational, and they prefer to think and to plan and to design their vacations at every single point before getting into them. So what do you think? It's better to experience this improvised vacations, or it's better to plan them and to have them very much organized before getting into the vacations themselves? So as to say, to have a thoughtful process before getting into them and well, proceeding thus. So what do you think? Let us continue with the 15 seconds of preparation. Okay, so please, your students, start preparing your responses now. There you are. Okay, so who's gonna start this time? Okay, I would like to listen to Miguel's response. So please, dear Miguel, start responding to this question now.
I think that taking a road trip from 1,000 to 3,000 kilometers in a new country is a very good way to know this country, because you go from one side to the other side of the country, not losing any particular location. So that way you can know every location that you want. In the other hand, planning a trip, I don't know. I don't read the other part. Sorry.
Okay, no, it's fine. Thank you very much, dear Miguel. There you are. Fabiana, please, could you continue with the question? Start responding now.
Okay. I think it's better to have a trip in mind and well plan it to have a good time for example, my mom plans very well the trips to sort, for example, the food and the places to visit, how many days we're going to stay, or to calculate the money, and also helps us to have an ordinary overview of the places we want to know and gives you time to see everything you want.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Fabiana. Okay. So let us continue with Camila. Please, dear Camila, could you start responding to the question now?
Okay. I consider myself a person who loves adventure. So I agree that a road trip is one of the best ways to travel, to see new places. First of all, not knowing what you're going to find. By not knowing what you're going to find, it's easier to take surprises that are going to last as memories. And on the other hand, it is as if the emotion of the trip is maintained because you are constantly traveling. My grandmother, for example, tells me all her anecdotes and shows me photos of so many moments that, without being planned, were among the most special.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Camila. There you are. Let us move on to Jorge's response. So please, dear Jorge, start responding to the question now.
In my opinion, it's better to have a vacation destination in mind before traveling to a new country for the following reasons. Firstly, you can make an approximate budget in how much you're going to spend in food. For example, I recently went to Guatemala and I made a budget of the places that were the cheapest so I wouldn't get scammed and pay more for food. Secondly, you can see the important places more easily. For example, my brother recently told me that he was glad he had a vacation destination in mind when he went to Los Angeles, because he could see the places that he truly wanted to see and not see, for example, tourist camps or places that he wouldn't be as excited to be in. That'll be it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Jorge. There you are. And finally, we have Anai. Please, dear Anai, let us start responding to this question now.
In my opinion, I prefer the second statement. It's a better idea to have a vacation destination in mind because of the following reason. First of all, make a clear plan about money and times and know the touristic places like the best restaurants. That being said, I remember my trip in Europe that I made an efficient research for the best places, have my tickets ready, and wear the appropriate clothes. All of that made that trip a good experience, and that's why I will repeat this kind of organization.
There you are. Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Anai. Okay, so let's have some feedback. So starting with Miguel, I think that I love the argument you gave, Miguel. You said it is actually better to take this road trip and not knowing what you're going to be doing because it allows you to know more places. Fantastic. I think it's a very interesting argument. And I also like the way you exemplify it. Of course, as I say, try to have two arguments, but nonetheless, this one is very good. So it's a very good response anyways, okay? But very good. Let's continue with Fabiana. Fabiana, for example, here in this case, also mentioned one argument, just one argument, and but she discussed a very personal opinion and illustration by describing the example of her mama that allowed her to have incredible trips by planning everything and knowing exactly what her family is going to be doing, right? So this is a very good illustration that, let's say, remains as a paradigm of a person who is organized and has everything on mind before getting into travels or adventures. Very good, dear Fabiana. As I said to Miguel, let us try to have the two arguments, but anyways, very good response. Camila, in this case, she mentioned two different arguments. She said, right, memories last actually for a longer period of time when they are adventures that have not been planned. Very interesting argument. I had never thought about it. And it's actually true, I think, but nonetheless, as I say, fantastic argument in how she also exemplified it was awesome. And here she also talked about how moments when they are experiencing this improvised and let's say not planned manner are actually more emotional, and it's actually, let's say, more appealing to remember that in the future. And she gave the example of her grandma. Fantastic illustration to demonstrate that you have some sort of appreciation for these moments that you don't have for other more planned and organized things that were, let's say, more normal or common. But fantastic, awesome response. Jorge, fantastic as well. Talking about budgets, talking about not being a scam. Awesome. Giving incredible illustrations. Los Angeles, Guatemala, incredible. And also here, Anaí as well presented a fantastic illustration here when she traveled to Europe, right? And she had everything on mind. She had the tickets, she had the food, she had the hotel, everything. Very good. Again, but the only thing, better trying to present two arguments, two illustrations. But anyways, what you are giving is incredible. It's very good. So I just want to congratulate you, okay, dear students, to all of you, because I think that it is noticeable, right, how much you have progressed from the first time we started practicing this section until this time, how much you have improved in your structure, how easy it is for you to come up with arguments that are very good, and how much you have, attained this particular skill of being personal and opening yourself to the reviewer. And I think that is going to certainly create a very good scenario for you on the exam, and your score is going to reflect that. So fantastic, okay? Just continue practicing, trying to apply the recommendations I gave you. You can rewatch this class whenever you want. And before you go, I want to give you a gift. For you. So although I already sent to the WhatsApp group a website for you to practice this task, let me send more material for you to practice this weekend, all right? In your free time. Here you have YouTube channels, websites that you can use in order to practice your speaking, not only this task, but also the following ones that we are going to be discussing, by the way, starting next Tuesday. Okay, so please don't miss that class. That is going to be very interesting. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to take your assistance. Okay, so please, dear students, help me before you go as well with the poll that we always feel. You know that you help me a lot, okay, by filling it positively. So please help me with that. and let me take your assistance. If you have any question, any commentary, please feel free to express it. Let me see. Here you are. So is here Ramirez Camila?
Yes, present.
Thank you very much. Here, Mila. What about Mayra Alejandra? Okay. What about Salguero Fabiana?
Present.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. What about Quiroga Adriana? Zúñiga Sergio? Alondra Lisette? What about Jose Miguel Quiroga?
Present.
Thank you very much, dear Miguel. What about Anaya Estefania?
Present, Professor.
Thank you very much. What about Jorge Alberto Benítez?
Present.
Thank you very much. There you are. Okay, dear students, thank you very much, okay, for your responses. I'm going to be seeing you next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you very much for having been here, okay? See you later.
Bye, Professor. Thank you.
Bye. Good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.